Hey, so I've put together a little demo app to demonstrate kind of how to use Aperture to like price different endpoints or require payment for different endpoints, kind of how to use macaroons with those. And then, so that's the first part of the demo. And then the second part will be how to create dynamic pricing, priced endpoints. So the app that I've built kind of looks like this. So this is kind of the basic usage without Aperture. So it's basically just a content server, meaning you have like articles and quotes that people can ask for, right? So there's going to be like a little CLI tool that the administrator can use to like add different articles and different quotes to the DB, and then the user can post a GET request for a certain article to the content server's HTTP server and get that article in response, right? So that's the basic app, and I'll show you how that works in a second. And then the eventual aim is that we add Aperture in front of this server so that we can require payment for different endpoints. And then the final step will be to have dynamic pricing, i.e., Article 1, Article 2, Article 3 all cost different things. But I'll get there in a second. Okay, so to start out, I have this repo, public repo, Almaton Aperture demo. So what you can do is go and clone this repo. So I've already done that. And then just for the start, can check out the static prices branch. Okay, because we're going to just start with that. But what I'm first going to do is show you how the app works without Aperture, right? So first you're going to do make install, just to install the apps. And then here I'm going to run the app. Cool. And then now I'm going to act as the administrator, right? So me as the administrator can do something like add an article. So let's just see. Here we go. So I'm adding an article, Harry Potter author content. Cool. Awesome. Success. And I can see here there's a little db.json. So if I go more db.json, it's just a simple JSON DB where you can see the articles being stored. And let's add another one as well. Wait, what other one? Here we go. The block size war. Adding that. I'm just adding pretty much book titles as articles. Cool. So now there's 2 articles, and cool. So this is me as the administrator adding content to the system. Now let's just open another pane window, and let's now act as the user, right? So we've just pretty much come through the CLI to add stuff to the DB, and now we're gonna be a user who wants to go and fetch one of these articles, right? So we can see that our HTTP server is being served at port 9000. So what we can do is we just go call HTTP, localhost 9000, and we want article 1. And there it is. Cool. We got the first Harry Potter, and then Article 2 would be block size wars. Don't forget Article 3. There's nothing like that yet, and there's also no quotes yet. Let's add and then if we add a quote as the administrator, so add quote. Let's add Shakespeare. Cool. There's a new quote, and now a user can come along and ask for quote 1 and there we go. They get that piece of content. So this is just an example. More accurate example would be proper article or a proper book or something. Okay, so that's just to demonstrate the basic app, right? Okay, cool. But now me as the administrator, I want to charge the user for the 2 different endpoints, right? Articles and quotes. So what I'm going to do is this looks complicated, but I promise it's not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to not expose this port 9000 to the internet anymore, or to the outside world anymore. I'm going to instead add this Aperture. I'm going to get Aperture running. Aperture is just a proxy, and only Aperture will be able to access this port now. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to run Aperture. It's going to have its little own etcd database. It's also going to have access to a Lightning node because it needs to generate invoices and see if things have been paid properly. And then we're going to have a little YAML file to configure it. And we're going to tell it in its YAML file what it needs to charge for different endpoints. Okay. So basically the flow is going to be a user is going to make the same GET request, get articles number 3. Aperture is gonna stop. It's gonna see the YAML file. Oh, we do require payment for this article 3. So it's not gonna just forward the GET request on to the server yet. It's going to return a 402 payment required response, and it's going to include in that a macaroon and an invoice that the user can pay if they want to have access to that endpoint, right? So then the user is going to go ahead, pay with their Lightning node, pay that invoice, get the pre-image, and with that they'll be able to reconstruct the LSAT, and they'll be able to go get article 3, and now in the header of that request they'll be able to include this LSAT, which is the macaroon and the pre-image again. And now Aperture gets it, sees that it's a valid LSAT and it's been paid, and then forwards the request onto the content server. So in this, and then gets the article back and passes it to the user. In this example, the content server has no idea that the stuff it's being asked for has like required payment, right? There's no pricing that the content server is aware of. So that's just all on the Aperture side. Okay, so let me demonstrate how to set this up, right? So we've got our articles and quotes endpoints. So let's do that. So what we're gonna do is let me just get rid of this and let's stop the app for now. What I want to show you before you can run Aperture is we're gonna look at this Aperture YAML file, and this is kind of how we're gonna. Oh wait, hold on. First thing you need to do is go and install Aperture, right? So here's the Aperture repo. You're gonna go clone the repo. I've already got it, so let me show you where I've got it. Oh, you can't see that. Oh no, sorry. Let's just show you here. Or let's just do this. Okay, so I've got Aperture over here. Okay, so you will have, you go and git clone it, and then you just go make install. To get Aperture, and then the one thing you need etcd, so just make sure you've got etcd installed, and I'm gonna run etcd because it's not very important to know what etcd is doing, so I'm gonna do it here where etcd. So etcd is going to be running there, and Aperture needs that just as its db, so don't worry too much about this, and I'll use this window to run Aperture. But before we run Aperture, let's look at how we're going to configure it, right? So first thing we're telling Aperture is its listen address. So we're basically saying here, hey Aperture, you need to listen for incoming requests on port 8700. So that's where we do in listen address. Okay, and then there's a bunch of other small things. This is important. The authenticator is basically the settings for LND. So we're telling Aperture how to make this connection to the Charlie node, to the LND node. So we're just, where's its RPC server, where's its TLS cert, where's its macaroon, and what network is it on? It's on reg test, right? And then the other thing is we need to tell it just where etcd is, and I'm running etcd in like insecure mode, so we're just telling it that. And then now this is the important part. So here we define 2 services, and what this is saying, so we're saying there's one service called articles, and basically we're saying to Aperture, any request that comes through to you on this port 8700, if the path matches this regex, which is something article, and then anything after that, then what we must do is we must ask for a payment with this price, 10 satoshis, and then if it has been paid successfully, we forward it onto this address, which is the address of our content server, right? 9000. Cool. And we do a similar thing for quotes. We say, hey, listen, anything that comes through with this regex with a quote, also forward it to 9000 if it's been paid. But for this one, we're going to charge 20 satoshis, right? So you can see that they're different things, they're different prices for these two. Cool. So now, and you can see in this scenario, the user is not allowed to access port 9000 anymore. They have to go through Aperture. Okay. So, cool. We've looked at the config file. So let's run Aperture now. And the way you run Aperture with this config file is like this. You just say Aperture -- config file, and you point it to wherever this config file is. And I'm just going to run it in insecure mode. Cool. So Aperture is running. So now let's run our app. So let's close this config file and let's actually run the app. Cool. You can see the content server is being served there. Okay, cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come in as the user now. Those articles and quotes are already there. We can see them in our DB file. can check that they're there. There's one quote and 2 articles. Okay, but let's come in as the user, and we're gonna try again to do this. We're gonna do this with the dash V option, just so we can have the verbose output. Okay, so we call and we do what we did before. HTTP localhost, and we're sending this request to port 8700, and we want article 1. Okay, so this time we didn't get the article back. We got instead payment required, and if we look in the head of the response, we get this this authentication, like LSAT information that we need to satisfy. So let's make a note of this, right? Grab the macaroon and just make sure you also grab the equal sign at the end. So let's grab the macaroon and let's make a note of it here. Macaroon is that without this. And then we also get this invoice that we need to pay. So now, as the user, let's look at the user again. The user's got access to this Alice node, and I've just got this reg test net running in the background. So this is kind of how I speak to that to Alice from there. So as the user, I'm gonna tell my Alice node, hey, please pay invoice. Pay requests equals this, and we can see here. 10 satoshis is what we're being charged. Is that correct? Let's quickly look at our Aperture file. We just asked for an article, and we can see that for articles, yes, we do require that people pay users pay 10 satoshis. Cool, so this is correct. So we pay this, it succeeds, and we get our pre-image. Let's make a note of this pre-image as well. So our pre-image is this. Awesome. So now we have paid for this. Let's try and make our request again, right? And if we go look at the protocol for LSAT, basically to make a valid request with an LSAT, you need to include a header that looks like this. So it needs to be authorization LSAT and then your LSAT. And the LSAT structure looks as follows. It's basically your macaroon colon pre-image, right? Okay, cool. So let's construct that. So we need the header to have this. So let's create our header now. So our header is going to look like this. Well, we know that an LSAT is equal to the macaroon and then the pre-image. Pre-image. And then we need to have, so the header is going to it's going to have this authorization LSAT. We grab the macaroon here. I think I actually forgot one of the equal signs in the macaroon. Let me just check. Let's go up. No, it's correct. Okay, and then we grab, so we have the macaroon, and then it's colon and pre-image. Cool, so this is our header, hopefully. Let's see now. So now we're gonna go back to our call request. There we go. This time though, we're gonna add a header. And the header is this. Boom. Okay, that's incorrect. What happened now? Oh, okay, sorry, I accidentally have a space here. There we go. There we get our Harry Potter article. Awesome. And so this worked. And then we can also ask for article 2, right? And then we get our block size wall. Because everything that falls under this regex expression will work. But if we use the same macaroon to ask for the quote 1, that won't work. We get payment required again because this macaroon is only for the articles regex. Awesome. Okay, so now so the limit of this is that say now me as the administrator, I want to charge a different price for article 1 and article 2 and so on and so on. So now the naive way for me to do this is to, for every time I add an article, to go into the Aperture YAML file and add a new service. And, this time I make one that specifically matches under Article 1. And then I charge 10 for that. And then I make a different one for Article 2 and I add Article 2 and I add a different price for that. But that's a very naive way of doing it. That's also very not really scalable because I have to recreate or edit the YAML file and restart Aperture every single time I add a new item. So that's not ideal. So what we're going to do instead is make use of this pricer RPC that Aperture feature that Aperture has. So basically what that means is we can, in our YAML file, we can tell Aperture, hey, don't charge a static price for this endpoint. Rather, go to this, we've implemented a gRPC service that's going to tell you what to charge. So ask, when you get a request for, let's say, the articles, ask the gRPC server what the price of that article is and charge that amount. So that's cool because then we can, the administrator can add articles and specify prices for those articles, and Aperture doesn't have to be restarted. Aperture, when it gets a request for that article, will just ask the content server what the price of that article is. So yeah, the flow here would be user makes a request, get article 3, Aperture sees it doesn't have a valid LSAT. It sees in the YAML file, hey, we've said that there's a dynamic price endpoint for this path, article path. So therefore it goes and it makes a request to that gRPC server, asks the content server, hey, what's the price of this article? And the content server will reply and Aperture will charge that amount. And then the rest is as it was before. And then, article 4 will have a different price to article 3, or it can rather. Okay, so let's show you how that works. Let us just reset some stuff. So I'm gonna just stop Aperture for now. Close this. Can leave etcd running. Let's quickly, what did we change here? Oh, okay, that's fine. Okay, so let's actually just stop etcd and just remove this default so that I can change branches. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to check out the dynamic prices branch. Oh, it's actually the same as master branch. So cool. So let's stop the app as well. And we have to, this branch is a different kind of app, so make install it again. And I'm also just going to remove the DB for now because it's a little bit different now. We're going to restart everything. So let me show you how that works. So now I'm going to restart the app, and as the administrator, I'm now going to re-add, let's just add quotes for now. So I'm going to add a quote, but so I'm going to add the Shakespeare quote again, but this time I'm going to say price equals 300 Satoshis, right? Cool. Success. Awesome. And let's add another quote with a different price. So add quote, let's do Martin Luther King again, price 400 Satoshis. Awesome. And cool. So now if we set everything up right, the user should be charged different amounts for those two items, and should also not be able to use the same macaroon to access both like it did before. Okay, so how do we set up the Aperture config file this time? So that's kind of the main difference. Let's just stop the app for now, and I'll show you the config file. So everything else is the same, except I'm going to leave the article one as normal. So all articles will be, you could be able to use the same macaroon for all of them, and you just have to pay 10 Satoshis. But for the quotes, what I'm going to say is, so there's no price, and then I instead define this dynamic price option. I enable that, and I say, hey, you can ask for prices at this address, 8083. So that's kind of where the content server will serve this prices server. Okay, and then it's insecure. So let me show you what that looks like on the server side. So basically, I've got a server, and I just had to implement this one method, get price, that is very simple, and it's just, okay, it only does quotes. So it has the path has to, it gets a path. It only does quotes, path that has the word quote in it. and then it gets the ID of the quote, asks the DB what the price of that quote is, and then we'll return that. So that's what Aperture will hit. Awesome. So let's start the app. You can see this time the app serves 3 things. It serves the local gRPC server for the CLI tool. It serves the prices server, which is this new thing at 8083, and then its usual HTTP server at 9000. Okay. And now let's start etcd again, and let's start Aperture again. Cool. So this time, let's again make the just our normal call request for, not for article, but for quote 1, and let's see what happens. Okay, again, we get payment required, and we get a macaroon. This time it's got 2 equal signs. Oops. So let's make a note of this macaroon. Okay. Here's the macaroon. And here is the invoice. So let's see what do we expect. Let's just quickly see. Let's do this and Vim Aperture. We're asking for article. Oh right, we didn't. Sorry. db.json. We expect article 1 to be 300 satoshis. Okay, so let's see what happens if I try pay this with as a user through the Alice node. Pay invoice -- pay request. Oops, I need to grab the invoice. Let's see. Haha, 300 satoshis. Awesome. I pay it. Cool. Here's the pre-image. We know that the LSAT is the macaroon : pre-image. And then we need to add this little snippet if we want to create a header. Awesome. So there's our header. So let's go make this request again. But this time we're adding -- header, and we're adding this. Cool. There's our quote, and we got it. Now, remember before I could just change if it worked for any quote, but now if I go for quote 2, it's payment required again, because now it's different, because we're charging a different dynamic prices, right, per endpoint. So now let's just do this again, one more time. So here's a different macaroon. Whoops, don't forget the equal signs at the end. Let's try this one. Boom, : and we expect this time to be charged 400 satoshis for this one, right? So cool. So rg reg alice pay invoice equal -- pay request is this, and there we go, 400 satoshis. Yes, and we pay the pre-image, put it there, create the header again, and now we're going to, this time we're asking for quote 2, create the header. Aha, there we go, there's quote 2. And again, if I use this macaroon for quote 1, that again won't work, payment required. Awesome, so this is really cool because I don't have to restart Aperture to add more, what's cool is I don't have to restart Aperture now every time I want to add a new article, because it doesn't have to reread the YAML file. So yeah, it's like dynamic pricing. Cool. I hope that's useful.